Reverend Sarah, or one of our co-chairs who happens to be here. You want to stand up? Mary Jane Lipinski. Yay. UUFN is an inclusive community that nurtures spiritual and intellectual growth and fosters ethical and social responsibility. If you are a visitor, either on site or online, we are glad you are with us, and we invite you to stay after the service to get acquainted. We welcome your questions and look forward to getting to know you. Later in the service today, we will take our Share the Plate offering as a way to care for the wider world. Each month, we share our offering with an organization that embodies UU values in the world. This month's recipient is the Minnesota chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP. AFSP works to prevent deaths by suicide and to support all those whose lives have been impacted by it. They bring hope and healing into places of despair and pain. You can read more about their legislative advocacy work and the extensive resources they offer on their website, afsp.org. During the offering later in the service, you may put cash or a check in the basket or donate online from our website, Northfield.org. If you are paying your pledge by check, please note in the memo line either capital pledge or annual pledge. There will also be instructions on the screen during the offertory time. I call your attention now to the announcements in your order of service and weekly email. There you will find more information about the following: Coffee with the Minister. Join Reverend Sarah for what has become a summer tradition of gathering for coffee and conversation. Stop by Tuesdays, July 16th, 23rd, and 30th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. at the Hideaway Coffee House, outside, weather permitting. The UUA is encouraging congregations to take part in a UU Climate Justice Revival on September the 28th and 29th. Before we begin planning, it is important to know the level of interest in this congregation here at UUFN. Please see this month's Reach newsletter for more information, or talk to Bill Jokolov. Bill, will you stand? Or any other of the other Green Team members. Join the Addition design team today after the service. The Addition design team finished the concept design phase with the LHB architects last week and has a refined design that we would like to share with the congregation. Our design schematics are due to the township on July 25th, and that detailed work will be done over the next few weeks. We're pleased and are pleased. The conversation will be streamed using Zoom link for the service, and it will be recorded for those who cannot attend. And Janet Scannell told me to let you know that we're going to try to get started with that meeting between 15 and 20 after 11, right? After the service, yes. So join us next Sunday, July the 21st, for Considering Spiritual Practices by Reverend Sarah Smalley. Reverend Sarah will talk about what it means to weave spiritual practices into our daily lives. This will be the first of a 2-sermon series and the second will be on August the 18th. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northfield.
All right. So when writing today's opening words, I realized I didn't even write an introduction for myself, so I'm going to do that now. My name is Taylor Wesseln. I have been a part of UU now since June of 2022. It's been 2 full years, and it's been 2 great full years. My role at UU has changed quite a bit. I started just as a rotating pianist. I joined your community playing music like every other Sunday, and I really fell in love with the messaging and what a great community you guys are. So I'm so proud to be a part of it. I am now the choir director. So yes. My role keeps expanding as I continue to grow as part of UU, and I'm just really excited for it. So this is my first time actually presenting. My microphone seems a little hot. Can we turn it down just a little bit? Thank you. So anyway, please be patient. I'm doing triple duty today, I think, with like presenting, being the musician, and amongst other things. So I really appreciate you guys being patient, and I think this is going to be a very special service. So thank you for being here. So our opening words today, it took me a while to like figure out what I actually wanted to do. I really had to put on a different hat when thinking about the service. I'm so entrenched in the music of it all that it took me a minute to realize what I actually wanted to do. So I stumbled upon some pieces of poetry that I kind of sprinkled throughout the service. I think of poetry as like music without the notes. It's sometimes rhythmic text and soundscapes. They create images in my mind that really sounds like music to me. So our opening words are actually from Bridget's Grove, which is an online community of storytellers, experience sharers, and life cycle celebrators. So this is Making Space for the Sacred by Molly Reamer. We all make of our lives what we can. The bumps and hurdles, the ragged places and fraying seams, the faded dreams and heartaches, the things that feel too big for us. And yet, here we are anyway. And that is all we have. May these lives we weave include space for sunshine on our shoulders, moonbeams on our brows. May we pause to bear witness to the world's turning, to our own place within the family of things. May we recognize that there is no such thing as finished, as getting it all done. And may we step back sometimes to see and feel and sing. May we gather together with one another, even when we are tired and when there is just too much to do. May we share stories and silences. May we make a space for the sacred and for ourselves in our own lives. May we lay our hands on one another and feel the breath deep within our bellies and allow the sound of center to rise up, filling the space between us with connection, belonging, and love.
The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Each Sunday, when we gather, we bring this symbol to life together. Please join me in speaking the words for the lighting of the chalice. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. And let us open our hearts to love one another.
All right, please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 376 and 377. These two hymns are actually from a section of the hymnal that allows for different text to fit different tunes. So I made a handy little handout for you in your program. So if you'd like to look at that instead of like digging through the hymnal, I recommend. So please rise in body and spirit.
Let's move into our time of centering and connection. Spirit of life and love, draw near. Help us to become more aware of your presence, shimmering within and among us. Will you please take a deep breath with me? In the presence of a love that holds us all, we use our chalice flame to light our candles of community. We light our first candle as a blessing for the wider world. We are greatly saddened to live in a country where many believe political differences can be solved by violence. We pray that we will come together in love to peacefully make our country a better place for all to live. We know too that the details of our daily lives are sacred and important. We now light a candle for all the simple joys that are sustaining us, And of course, we're all saddened by what happened in the. We are going to light one more candle in honor of the joys and sorrows we carry in our hearts, but that have not been spoken aloud. And we move into a time of silence. May the truth of your heart be reflected in these flames. I invite you to settle into a silence of your understanding, holding the truth of our lives and our world in our hearts. Amen and blessed be.
So our reading today is another poem. I think this poem kind of has a silly title, a religious and philosophical poem about music as a kind of prayer. It's a little on the nose, but anyway, I think it has a great message. The poet does hold the position of music as a tool in worship, a tool to use when words can no longer convey what your heart wants to express. The speaker refers to the capital Y, U. In my experience, this writing technique usually refers to the capital G, God. However, I do feel that this poem ultimately leaves space for the listener to make that decision. If this capital Y, U is some larger mystery like the pulsating universal energy surrounding us, it can be. So, a religious and philosophical poem about music as a kind of prayer by Nicholas Gordon. When I pray to you, words are not enough. They fail to tell you what is in my heart until I add the midrush of my art. Music is feeling filtered through fire, purified passion, molten desire. Music is sunlight that shines from the soul. Words come in fragments. Music is whole. When I pray to you, words are not enough. My supplication turns into a song, asking for the grace for which I long. Music's a gift from your heart to mine. As I write it, our spirits combine. Your gift to me twice given proves, though through it, I give you the gift of my love.
Thank you, Taylor. That was beautiful. Now we will expand our circle of care as we gratefully give and receive our Share the Plate offering for the Minnesota chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This is one way we make our care for the world tangible. Will the ushers please come forward?
I have to remind myself to take a breath. Words come in fragments. Music is whole. I think this poem perfectly presents a question to think about throughout this little presentation. Although this poem expresses the speaker's value that music is more useful to them in a time of prayer, when entering this sacred space today, how does music heighten your worship experience? What do you focus on when you hear the piano or the text? Where does the music take you? Music and our UU services are inexplicably intertwined. We begin each service with a gathering song, Come, come, whoever. We pray together as a community after expressing our joys and sorrows. Spirit of light. We go forth from each service singing, May the long time sun shine upon you. Not to mention all of the other pieces that change from week to week in order to articulate the specific message of each service. I began my deep dive into the history of UU hymnody with the particular lens of published hymnals. I could take my educator approach because I am a teacher, I am a music teacher, and I could stand here with charts and graphs and map all of the published hymnals with a very specific timeline, spanning back over like 200 years of Unitarian and Universalist hymnals. I mean, it was even before Unitarians and Universalists converged. Don't get me wrong, I thought about it, but today, even though I find that so fascinating and thrilling as a musicologist, I decided when reflecting on today's service that a sufficient background can be summarized like this. The history of UU hymnody began with adapting hymns from other religious contexts to include and uplift UU ideology. With each new hymnal came more updates trying to catch up with the current state of UU principles. These hymnals were never around for very long because of the ever-evolving nature of what it means to be Unitarian Universalist. I think Jason Shelton puts it quite eloquently. A hymn book represents the theological and ecclesial self-understanding of a religious movement at a particular moment in history. Even though one of the most UU things is that we don't have an official sacred text, he argues, and I do too, that those gray and teal hymnals in your chairs underneath your seats, that is our sacred text. I mean, that is the official current state of what UUs believe. It's making claims through its hymn text, and it even proves the pluralistic nature of what being UU is through our like numerous musical traditions that are represented in that hymnal. There are Catholic hymns, there are repurposed Lutheran hymns, Methodist, Black spirituals, folk songs, even contemporary music, and so much more, all in that little book. So when I say repurposed hymns, reframing, what does that mean exactly? Well, one of the main ways that you use alter hymns to fit their ideas, their beliefs, their ideology, it's through text alterations. They change the words. They change the words. Even from the beginning, it's always been about words, words, words. This change could merely be one word even. If you want to open your gray hymnal to number 205, you might recognize this one. It's Amazing Grace. Take a look. You'll find that everything remains traditional except for that one word, wretch. There's a little asterisk next to it. It can be altered to soul. I think this is an interesting example to begin with. So, because one word truly changes the effect of the whole line. So I want to sing it. Let's sing it the traditional way first. So use wretch. Here we go. Amazing. Okay, sound lovely. Now, can we sing the same thing, but use soul instead of wretch. And I want you to think about how it feels. That saved a wretch like me, that saved a soul like me. The jury is ultimately split on this particular change, hence it's not like actually changed in the hymnal, it's just a little asterisk. Does changing it to soul decrease the power of being saved by grace? But why dwell in despair and self-deprecation? So in true UU fashion, I believe we can hold both truths, and that we ultimately leave it up to the context that this song is presented in. Dealer's choice. So now this next hymn has a more extensive alterations. It's number 289 in that gray hymnal. Creative love, our thanks we give. The original text comes from William DeWitt Hyde, and it's set to an English melody harmonized by Ray Vaughan Williams. The original poem is actually titled Creation's God, We Give You Thanks. Another capital YU. So the UU adapter, Beth Ide, transforms this text, making these particular effective changes, because I'm not going to read the original poem in its entirety. What she does in the hymnal present before you is she removes God's ownership over earth and gives it back to humanity, calling it creative love, our world as humans. She reduces the militaristic imagery that's within the original poem from like a will to fight to a will to live. And lastly, but not like ultimately, last of my list, she transforms this lofty kingdom of heaven in the poem, and it becomes a future filled with hope. So although the original poem is somewhat buried under Ide's many changes, the second stanza and the final stanza remain almost completely intact, minus one word. That's the original poem, those two phrases. So I'd like to sing verse 2 and 4. I'm not sure if this hymn is very familiar. I kind of knew the hymn tune going into this, so we'll go nice and slow. So verse 2. That four, six, it's kind of a tricky tune, but I think the words are quite special, especially that last stanza. Since what we choose is what we are, and what we love we yet shall be. The goal may ever shine afar. The will to reach it makes us free. There's this online thing that Sarah showed me called Far Fringe, where there's reflections on these hymn tunes, and I think her name is Debuse, but I'm not 100% certain. She summarizes kind of the changes in the text, and I think it's really powerful. So here is what the adapter is really doing. We are glad there's work to be done. We are grateful there is still problems in the world for us to respond to. And we're glad to be part of creating the world we want to see. We're glad the moral arc of the universe is long so that we can help build the beloved community, not just benefit from it. Some claim that the original poet wouldn't even recognize his own work in this adaptation. However, I think this hymn is actually a beautiful blend of old and new. The preservation of the two stanzas that we sang is like, it's almost half of the original text. And I described those simple shifts that I'd made to the other parts. And truly, I think it broke this poem wide open to see those messages. Now I'd like to turn to the teal hymnal. I know I'm throwing you around a bunch. Welcome to my lessons. So I want to go to number 1038, the 23rd Psalm, dedicated to my mother. 1038. As someone who grew up in the Catholic Church, went to a Catholic school from kindergarten through 8th grade, and arguably was forcibly confirmed, and now teaching at a Catholic school, this iconic UU hymn was actually a little difficult for me to work through, if I'm being completely honest. Amidst my belief in the flexibility of text, everything that I stand for, that UU stand for, it's really ingrained in my bones, the like reverence of sacred scripture. And it's something that I'm working through. It took me a long time to realize that ultimately writing this presentation and putting everything to words, that I can't help but feel a little uncomfortable with this one. And I'm just speaking my truth here as from my own experience. So if you don't know the 23rd Psalm, this is not what it is. It has been reshaped and reformed. The 23rd Psalm, though, is one of the most quoted Psalms in sacred scripture. I'm going to read it just so you can see the differences in front of you. So the original 23rd Psalm in the like newly revised international, there's so many editions of the Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff comfort me. I mean, I don't know if I'm uncomfortable because of my Catholic upbringing, or like the 23rd Psalm is one of the most quoted Psalms in pop culture. I mean, even in music, it's like Bach sets it, Dvorak sets it, Pink Floyd references it, Coolio does, Gangster's Paradise. Did you know that? And like it's in Titanic, it's in a couple other movies. So the text is so recognizable to me that it almost feels wrong. It's like singing the wrong words to Twinkle Twinkle, like twinkle, twinkle, little star, what are you? You're way up in the sky. You sparkle like a gem. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, what are you? Like, that's what it feels like for me to read this because of how well I know the original psalm. So my first encounter with this hymn, I actually sang it with the choir. It was kind of jarring, but in a wonderful way. Bobby McFerrin is the one who adapts the 23rd Psalm dedicated to my mother before you. And he expands our idea of God beyond this patriarchal language. It reminds us that women are holy. God is bigger than any box we can devise, and there is love and comfort in this mystery. Now, I'd like to sing the first verse together, even though some claim that it loses its effect with all the harmonies. Choir, if you remember your harmonies, that'd be super cool. But I think the melodic shape of the melody is enough to accent this like theologically dense text that McFerrin presents to us. So the 23rd Psalm dedicated to my mother, just the first verse. He makes me lie down in green meadows, beside the still water she will lead. She restores my soul. She rights my wrongs. She leads me in the path of good things. She fills my heart. It still gives me chills. Even the way in which McFerrin structures the hymn to mimic the simultaneously ancient and new text. Psalm verses in a Catholic mass, they follow a similar idea. Sometimes a lot of text is held on along one note for a very long time, and then a cadential idea. And I think that's a really cool reference musically. But McFerrin brings it into a more contemporary mindset through these like crunchy chords packed with dissonance. But our modern ears really, really love them now. Like back in the day, Bach would have had a tizzy, but this, oh, it's so beautiful. I don't have an answer or a conclusion on that one. I really appreciate you letting me work through that with you guys together. It's very special that we as UUs can do that. But the final hymn I want to talk about has been dubbed the Freebird of UU hymns. Does anybody know what it is? Anybody know? Blue Boat Home. Yeah. Okay. So Blue Boat Home is number 1064 in the same hymnal. So Blue Boat Home. This is the bop I was talking about in my little introduction. A certified banger if I've ever heard one. So Blue Boat Home is a song in which Peter Mayer wrote these wonderful lyrics to the hymn tune Heifredal. Has anybody heard of Heifredal before? I don't know. I love hymn tunes so much. So I knew Heifredal actually before I knew Blue Boat Home. Heifredal is a Welsh tune from the early to mid 1800s. It's really an earworm. It's so delightfully accessible, and because it uses only the first. Oh, what key? That key. It only uses the first couple notes of the scale, so it's very accessible to sing. Let's see, where am I? Oh, also it's like stepwise motion. So there's not these crazy leaps that only like an advanced singer can look at the music and do right away. It really plays to like all voices. But I knew Heifredal as love divine, all love excelling, or come thou long expected Jesus. Does that ring a bell to anybody? So I actually didn't make this connection until December of last year, because part of my my music job at a Catholic school is I help lead the liturgical settings, their weekly masses. So I was preparing for an Advent service, and I like remembered there's this song, Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, and it was like a blast from the past, to say the least. And so I like tried to conjure up everything I remembered from my own days in Catholic schools, and I was like, I'm going to do this song. I remember doing it. Here it is. I found the music. I started playing it, and I was like, where have I heard this recently? Like, why is this familiar? And so I like tore apart my classroom, because I was like, maybe it's like another song that I know from all of my years of like going to mass twice a week. But it was actually, it was actually here. Blue Boat Home. I was like, oh my gosh, ding, ding, ding. That's what it is. And Peter Mayer does change the tune like ever so slightly. He adds like an extra note, so it goes up to a different scale degree. It's a little less accessible than the original tune, but it's still in the same meter, the 3/4, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It has this nice swell, this ebb and flow. And the piano accompaniment kind of helps complicate that. It's one of the most complex accompaniment in UU. Yeah, love that as a pianist. But I think it's to actually convey this idea of ocean swelling and ebb and flow. And a lot of music about like waterways, oceans, seas, rivers is written in this time signature. So I kind of want to sing verse 1 together. Okay, here we go. So thank you. Isn't it wonderful? It's such a great tune. One thing I think I spend a lot of time thinking about in this musical space is the duality of these old tunes and new texts. I think of music as one of those mediums that just like absorbs the world around it. Therefore, sometimes I do struggle with the idea of merely putting new words to a song in order to erase, update, or even make the tune more palatable to our ideology. How can I sing this song without conjuring up the original text? I mean, furthermore, is the music ever truly removed from the text once held within it? I mean, it's difficult for me in my history to sing Blue Boat Home without conjuring up images of snow on the ground, a wreath of pink and purple candles, or my mom's like porcelain nativity on the mantle, and the smell of those pews in that dusty Catholic church from singing Heiferdal, you know? That's what makes UU hymnody so complex. I do not have an answer for you at all. I'm merely presenting things for you to think about. And I really do speak from my own experience joining this community. But I will offer one more reflection as someone who found UU after leaving a highly dogmatic and structured faith like Catholicism. And I went to a Lutheran college just up the road for 4 years after that. So like, it is in my bones, people. It has been healing. Oh my gosh, I didn't think I was going to get choked up. To hear these melodies and words in this context. God, how embarrassing. I spent so long hating being Catholic. But I struggled with the fact that growing up in that faith helped me find my calling in music. Those songs are a part of who I am, and I cannot deny that. Those melodies are in my bones, along with all of that like crazy guilt that has been built up. This music that I love and feel at home has now been removed from the context that I so desperately wanted to leave. In truth, I don't know if I'll ever be able to sing Blue Boat Home without thinking about the season of Advent or comfortably listen to the 23rd Psalm. However, one of the best things about being UU is the ever-changing nature of our faith. I mean, revelation is not sealed in this building, and I love it. Reverend Mark Morrison Reed once recognized that as a progressive faith, our thinking is regularly changing and hopefully evolving. As such, as soon as a new hymnal is established, it's insufficient. I mean, he noted that we will never, I mean, we have not arrived and we will probably never arrive. But when we get to sing a living tradition, that means we're part of a living tradition. I have no doubt that as our hymnal continues to grow and change and accommodate and reflect the people who sing its songs, I will continue to grow and change right there with it. Our closing hymn today I wish I could give you some like crazy musicology reason for why I picked the last hymn. I just like it. So can we all sing a song that I like together? I would love to hear that. It's number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Please rise in body and spirit. For all we sing our praises, for all which we go to for our souls. For beggars sing now, for our sacrifice, we honor praise. For all that is, for all that is, we sing praises. For all
Please be seated. Thank you. Thank you, Taylor. That was lovely.
Thank you.
And I just have one last thing to add, if I may. It's not in the script. Do you know why Unitarians are typically bad at singing hymns? Say no. It's because they're reading ahead to make sure they agree with the words. I couldn't resist. So, yeah. All right. So now we're going to extinguish our chalice. We join in the words for extinguishing our chalice. Going to do that.
Yes.
Okay. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. You all rise as you're able, and with your hands over your heart, holding the hand of someone next to you, or whatever posture is most comfortable for you. We sing our blessing one to another.
Before we sing May the Longtime Sun, stay where you are. I'm not gonna ask you to move. I do want to read a closing reflection on today's service. So this is an excerpt from a music poem by Betty Lynn Schwab. The music of worship. Music is not inserted into worship. Rather, worship is inherently musical. We are a singing people. How we sing together and what we sing together reflects our faith, our church, our union with fragile creation, our thoughts and feelings about one another and all humanity. May it be so. Let's sing May the Longtime Sun. Go in
One
peace.
moment, we have a word here from Barbara Kraft. Okay, I'm gonna have to. We were hoping we could get this in before go in peace.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But that's okay. So here we go. Not only have you just heard the history from Taylor about these songs and the wonderful. Hello, everybody. Sorry. We need to have one more thing to say here. Okay, you've all just heard some beautiful history and commentary from Taylor, along with gorgeous poems for the music of many of our hymns. And for that, we are very grateful. But she's fantastic. Don't you agree? Absolutely. But there is one more thing. She and Casey were married on June 20th. Casey, come on over here. And we have a cake in their honor today from the choir. So we love you to enjoy a piece with us and also to offer blessings and just wonderful comments and love to the two of you. Thank you so much. Now go in peace. Now you can go in peace.